Most people don't live, they wait to be happy. What if everything you believe about happiness is wrong? Not slightly off. Not a little misguided. Completely wrong. What if happiness isn't something you're supposed to chase? What if the more you pursue it, the more anxious, exhausted, and empty you become? And what if the people who are the calmest, most grounded, most free, are the ones who let go of happiness altogether? That's what the Stoics believed. Not in theory. In how they lived. Seneca. Epictetus. Marcus Aurelius. 3 men from 3 very different places. A politician, a slave, an emperor. And yet they all came to the same conclusion. Happiness is not the goal. Virtue is. And peace is the reward of the virtuous. Today, you are told that happiness is a feeling. A mood. A reward. That if you just do enough, own enough, become enough, it will come. But that's a lie. Because the moment you feel happy, the clock starts ticking. You fear losing it. You grasp at it. You compare it to someone else's. And the harder you cling to it, the faster it disappears. Seneca warned of this over 2,000 years ago. He saw a Roman citizen spending fortunes on luxury, status, food, sex, fame. And never feeling at peace. Because comfort is not the same as calm. And pleasure is not the same as purpose. No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity. Seneca. You can feel good, and still be hollow. You can laugh every day and still dread the silence of your own mind. That is not peace. That is a distraction. And what happens when life goes wrong? When people betray you? When plans fall apart? When you lose what you love? If happiness is your goal, then your entire existence becomes vulnerable to chaos. The Stoics rejected that fragility. They taught. Don't aim to feel good. Aim to be unshakable. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Seneca. You waste it on emotional roller coasters. On dopamine highs. On the illusion that you can create a perfect life. But no matter how perfect you think it is, loss will still come. And when it does, only one question matters. Did you build yourself strong enough to stand through it? Epictetus, the philosopher born into chains, had nothing. And yet he wrote like a man who had conquered the world. He didn't ask how to feel good. He asked how to be free. Not free from hardship. Not free from responsibility. But free from emotional slavery. He taught. Do not seek to have events happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do. At first, that sounds passive. But it's the most active mental discipline a human being can practice. To will what happens, as it happens. Not to pretend it's good. But to accept that it is here. And to move forward as though it's not your enemy. Because you can waste your whole life demanding that life feel better. Or you can train your soul to be still no matter how it feels. That's what stoicism is. Not numbness. Not cold indifference. But warm strength. Measured thought. A kind of clarity that says, I do not need everything to go right. For me to remain right with myself. Marcus Aurelius, ruler of the known world, wrote more about self-restraint and self-honesty than about ruling armies. Why? Because he understood. The hardest empire to govern is not Rome. It's the mind. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Marcus Aurelius. What destroys us is not reality. It's the stories we tell about it. We say, this shouldn't have happened. I shouldn't feel this way. This isn't fair. And so we suffer twice. Once from the event. And again from our resistance to it. But what if you stopped resisting? What if you accepted life not as an enemy to be conquered, but as a path to be walked, with discipline. Most people don't want that responsibility. They want happiness. They want life to adapt to them. They want other people to fix them. To validate them. To give them peace. But peace built on people is borrowed. And borrowed peace gets taken back. Seneca understood this better than anyone. He lived in the court of Nero, a mad emperor capable of killing on impulse. He saw how false security destroyed even the wealthiest men. So he practiced letting go. He imagined loss before it happened. He walked among slaves even while rich. He fasted while surrounded by food. Why? Because he wanted his mind to be ready when comfort failed. And when exile came, he was calm. Because he had trained for the worst. Can you say the same? Most people never train. They coast. They feel good, until they don't. Then they panic. Then they run. Then they chase something new. But the Stoic doesn't run. He remains. He stands. He acts. Because he knows. You are not your emotions. You are not your circumstances. You are the one who decides how to respond. And that decision, made with reason, is where power begins. Let me be clear. Happiness is not evil. Joy is not wrong. But when you build your identity on those things, you will be ruled by the need to keep them. Which means you'll never be free. Freedom is being okay without them. Freedom is doing what is right, even if it hurts. Freedom is saying, I will not bend just to feel better. The Stoics didn't chase feelings. They chased excellence. And sometimes, that means walking through pain, without complaint. Sometimes, that means choosing silence over revenge. Sometimes, that means being misunderstood, and staying true anyway. And here's what most people don't realize. The most peaceful people are not the ones who smile the most. They're the ones who have suffered without turning bitter. They've been humiliated, rejected, forgotten, and kept their soul intact. They didn't lose themselves trying to feel good. They found themselves doing what was right. They live without the noise of needing to be happy. And in that quiet, something greater is born. Stillness. Strength. Freedom. Not because they won life. But because they mastered how to live in it. So let me ask you. If you had to choose between being happy and being unshakable, which would you choose? Would you choose the passing feeling, or the lasting foundation? Would you choose soft comfort, or sharp clarity? Would you choose the lie that happiness is everything, or the truth that peace requires depth? Write your answer in the comments. Because this is not just a video. It's a challenge. To stop chasing. To start building. And to become someone that happiness no longer controls. Because you've finally outgrown the need to be happy. You've stopped chasing happiness. But what now? What's left when the need to feel good disappears? What replaces the goal you've been taught since childhood? The Stoics never left that question unanswered. Because after you let go of the pursuit, comes the hardest part. You must stand still. Face what's inside. And take full responsibility for who you are. That is where most people quit. They run from stillness. They confuse quiet with emptiness, solitude with failure. They say they want peace, but only if it doesn't require being alone with themselves. But real peace begins exactly there. In the silence after the chase ends. When you realize that the thing you've been pursuing for years was never lost, it was just buried under the noise. Seneca once wrote, "A man is unhappy, though he reigns the world, if he does not reign over himself." To rule yourself, this is the final battle. Because it's easy to act strong when life is easy. It's easy to sound wise when nothing threatens you. But the Stoics trained for the moment when peace wouldn't come naturally. They prepared for insult. They expected betrayal. They greeted hardship like a guest. Why? Because what you're not ready for owns you. They understood something modern culture tries to ignore. That suffering isn't a problem. It's an opportunity. Epictetus taught his students to be tested. Not to hide from discomfort, but to seek it out, to practice it. To train the mind like a warrior trains the body. Not with self-hatred, but with self-respect. Difficulties show what men are. Epictetus. The fire doesn't destroy you. It reveals you. So what happens when you're left with only yourself, no distractions, no pleasure, no comfort? Do you like who you are? Can you endure your own company? Most can't. That's why they chase happiness. Because silence is louder than pain. But the Stoic listens to that silence. Because inside it, they find truth. Marcus Aurelius ruled millions. Yet his greatest conquest was internal. He wrote to himself, not to impress others, but to stay awake. He reminded himself. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength is not emotional immunity. It's clarity. It's the ability to say, this hurts, and yet I will continue. This is unfair, and yet I will act justly. This is not what I wanted, and yet I will not be broken. This is what remains when happiness is no longer the measure. You become your own compass. Your own calm in the storm. And here's what people rarely admit. It's lonely at first. Not because you're alone. But because you stop depending on the world to hold you together. You no longer blame others. You no longer expect life to comfort you. You no longer wait for someone to fix what's broken inside you. Instead, you fix it yourself. And that changes everything. Because the moment you stop demanding peace from the world, you begin to create it within. That is the Stoic revolution. A quiet, personal, invisible transformation. And most will never see it. But you will feel it. You'll feel it the next time life falls apart, and you don't. The next time someone insults you, and your breath stays steady. The next time loss enters, and you grieve without crumbling. That is the reward for letting go of the lie. The lie that you need to be happy to be whole. Because here's the truth. You were never broken. You were just distracted from what actually makes you strong. And strength, the kind the Stoics lived by, is not loud. It does not shine. It does not beg for attention. It endures. So when the world tells you, do what makes you happy, you can reply, no. I'll do what makes me whole. Because happiness comes and goes. But character, that's yours to keep. You don't need to be liked. You don't need to be understood. You don't need to be smiling. You need to be solid. Still. Unmoved. And when that becomes your standard, you will finally be free. Now you choose. Will you return to the chase? Or will you step into the quiet? And begin the harder path? The one that leads not to happiness, but to yourself? Let me know in the comments. Would you choose to feel good? Or to never be owned by feelings again? That's the question. And your answer is the beginning of everything.